Welcome everybody. It's going to be an interesting session, or at least I'd like to think it's going to be an interesting session. There have been some significant shifts in the market, and we tend to, as contractors, we tend to kind of be fixated in where we are and what we're busy with, and just keeping the business running on a day-to-day basis. So I'm hoping that this will provide a bit of insight on potentially where the market is going, what is going to have an impact on the market. I know the fuel prices are ridiculous. That's definitely going to have an impact on your bottom line, especially for the guys that have projects that are far away. There was on one of the social media groups this morning, there was a guy who drove out to a customer to go and do a COC, and he charged the customer 1,700 Rand, including VAT. So that would have been 1,500 Rand coming to the company because the rest goes to SARS. And so out of the 1,500, he is supposed to recover the costs of his time. Under current market conditions, you shouldn't be charging less than about 650 Rand an hour, which is what we've been calculating and looking at. And someone on the social media group responded in that much detail. But at 650 Rand an hour, you are only breaking even. You're not starting to make money. And it kind of gives you 4 hours of work time per day, 4 to 5 hours of chargeable work hours per day. But if you have to drive between suppliers and kind of still do quotes and that kind of thing, then 650 is what you should be charging. So 1,750 Rand for a COC is not unrealistic. It might be on the low side. I'm going to have to just close my a couple of programs because I see my laptop is complaining about disk space. Okay. Good morning, everyone. To those of you that have just logged in, my name is Ballack. I am officially a guy that's called the president for the association. It's a term or a title that was stolen from the ECA. When we created the organization, we had to kind of decide what we were going to call the different denominations. And that is something that was borrowed from one of the other associations. We are going to start today's meeting. Thomas Besaidnout is going to join me. So somewhere during the presentation, I'm going to kind of stop presenting on my slides. I'm going to give Thomas an opportunity to just add a bit of information. It would be nice if there are some of you that have some information on where the market is at the moment. You can either have your say towards the Q&A of the meeting, so the question and answer session right towards the end, or you can make use of the opportunity while I'm busy presenting. I am not too fussed either way. I saw I've got a quick question. Years and years ago, I was involved with an organization called CESA, and there was a guy by the name of, I think it was Roger Thompson. And I see we've got a Roger Thompson attending the meeting. Roger, is that the same Roger that was involved with CESA years and years ago? If you have a mic,
No, Carl, that's not me.
not you.
No, not
Okay.
me.
Okay, thanks, Roger. It was worth a shot.
No, there you go. Worth a shot, yeah.
Okay, thanks for joining the meeting. I hope the information is useful.
Super, thank you.
Okay, guys, I'm going to share my screen so we can start the meeting. Zoom is accessing your screen. Yes, that is what we are trying to get it to do. Let me just, I see I'm on the wrong page. That's where we want to be. Okay, sharing on its way. That one. Hmm. Guys, you should be able to see my screen. I am going to just minimize the images on the right. You should. I am going to pin my video so that when I minimize it, you should be able to see me on the top right-hand side of the screen if all goes well. And then I am supposed to present slideshow. There we go. I hope you can see my screen. Let's get the show on the road. I'm going to be opening the meeting. In fact, I have already opened the meeting, and then we're going to jump through to the IRENA report. So IRENA is interesting. It's the International Renewable Energy Agency, and they report on global values, but they rely on local guys to submit the value. So they would have either gotten information from the CSIR, or what's the company? It's not Greenbolt, Green Cape. So they would get information from organizations that do studies and reports, and it would have been places like Green Cape or the CSIR or any other kind of more government-related organization that makes information available. They might be digging into some of Eskom's reports, or the likes, maybe NERSA, and then they publish statistics and reports globally. Now, the reason we even started with the IRENA report was because the goods being imported is being considered for additional import duties, and that kind of prompted me to start doing research. And then I found the IRENA report. It was only published this year, so it's 2026 report. Guys, when I was a contractor and I was driving in between sites, these reports had no value for me. I couldn't understand what I would do with the information or how to apply it. So I'm hoping that the meeting today and the information we share in the meeting today would be able to give you guys some insights on how to use this data, what to read in the data, and if you have money, what to do with it. If you need to decide how to strategize to keep your business going, then information from these types of reports are going to show you what goes on in the rest of the world. And because you've got a case study, let's call it a case study of what is happening somewhere else, it can sometimes give you a very good idea of what is going to be happening locally. Africa is a completely different environment, and marketplace when we compare that to places like Europe. So it is possible that it's going to be significantly different. But there are some of the things that we can read in this. So ITAC is the organization that is responsible for identifying import duties for and on behalf of SARS. So ITAC would make recommendations on, and they would manage the process. And ITAC had a meeting. I think it was with Department of Trade and Industry. I think ITAC sits under the DTI. I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago to discuss import duties. The reason they want to add import duties is to promote job creation. And this during the meeting with ITAC, there was a wind turbine manufacturer who's based in Cape Town, and they said that they were in the process of closing down because the projects locally don't make use of local manufacturing. And then when I started reading through this report, I noticed that it's not just in South Africa where manufacturers are struggling. Guys, you're just going to have to switch off your microphones, please. That was just one mic there, quickly sorted out. And then when I started reading this report, I realized, but wait a minute, in Germany, some manufacturing plants have closed down. In China, some manufacturing plants have closed down. So the problem is a global problem and not a local problem. So it's important when you start looking at expanding into different areas, it's important to understand what's happening in your environment, and you can use the conditions in your environment to decide what you need to do next to grow your business. And something that I also found being an issue is when we are contractors, we're almost isolated. We don't always take a look at what's happening in the rest of industry. So we'll be quiet. We'll have a quiet month, and we wouldn't know where business has gone. We don't know why it's quiet. So you would be able to get that kind of information by joining meetings like these, or you'd be able to kind of read through these reports, see what's happening globally, and kind of draw certain conclusions or make certain assumptions on why the sector or the different sectors are quiet. You can identify new sectors that are starting up. You can identify sectors that are busy, and then depending on where your network sits, you can decide whether you're going to use this information and maybe add an additional service in a sector that is busy growing and a sector that is busy, or to stay where you are and focus on your existing clients and business infrastructure. Okay, so the report gives us a current market state, but gives it to us more globally. But I'm going to pick on a couple of things to look at what's happening internationally and how that affects us locally. And then we want to have a look at where the market opportunities are. So jumping right in, I think, whoa. So guys, there is the link. I'm not sure whether Marisha or Anne, whether you'd be able to copy that link and maybe just paste it in the chat box. Then the guys who are in the meeting can just click on the link to download the report. The report is available free of charge. All you need to do it is open it and read it. There are interesting statistics and information from different sectors. They cover, for example, solar water heating, heat pumps, biofuels. So it's not just linked to solar PV. It covers wind and a variety of other renewable energy sources as well. So what I found interesting about this graph and the statistics was we kind of saw a massive growth from 2022. So this is an international graph. It doesn't feature anything from South Africa. So don't try and look for South Africa. We are not there. But internationally, there was a sudden increase in growth for solar at roughly the same period that we experienced it. The only difference is we, of course, experienced the sudden growth and demand as a result of our increased load shedding. Load shedding has fallen away, so that has changed the market substantially. And for this year, we have seen solar panel prices being increased. I think we are going to see goods, the prices or the cost of goods increase as a result of the increase in fuel prices. REAP is the Renewable Energy Infrastructure Project. So when you start looking at all the Eskom solar farms, those solar farms are captured under a name or a term REAP. And REAP is an easy way to capture statistics like job creation. It's easy to capture statistics on solar panel imports and that kind of thing. I have a hard time using statistics from REAP to determine whether there's a market for PV or for batteries, for example, because with REAP, you have one project and they import 200 megawatts of solar panels for one project. They would import 10 or 20 megawatt hours of batteries for one project. So you can't really look at REAP if you're involved in the commercial and industrial sector. REAP, the statistics coming from places like these aren't necessarily realistic on what's happening on the ground for guys who do normal commercial and industrial solar installations. I see over here they mention that South Africa still supported about 34,000 solar PV jobs. I actually think it's significantly more than that. But because we don't have statistics and data, there's no one reporting on it. I'll give you an indication as to how, and it's not that these guys are desperate for information, but they use trusted sources. And years ago, we used to provide, we being PQRS had a database of solar PV installations, and we used to provide data to IRENA. So from 2016 to 2018, some of the data from PQRS was used in the IRENA reports. And at the moment, AREP is in the position, as of about 2 weeks ago, AREP is in the position to get access to this kind of information again. So we will be starting to write reports on what the conditions are for guys who are involved in the solar PV sector and not necessarily related to the large solar PV farms. What is interesting here, before I move on to the next slide, is we've got about 34,000 solar PV jobs. And look at the wind. Item number 4, employment in wind remained limited at about 2,500 jobs. So look at the size of the job market in the PV sector. Look at the size of the job market in the wind sector. The size of the job market in the wind sector is more geared towards large utility scale wind farms. But what it does is it gives us an opportunity to understand the difference in scale of the markets. There's an engineer, I don't know whether, I think it's Bo van der Eems. I don't know whether Bo is joining us today, but he has written a couple of articles on wind and the affordability of wind and that kind of thing. It might be worth your while to venture onto LinkedIn and see if you can find his articles and just get some of the information that Bo has shared on those on those articles. It's interesting, and I think the bottom line is you have to fit a weather station before you fit a wind turbine to know whether you're going to have enough wind to make it viable. We will cover wind and wind technology in more detail in some of the upcoming meetings. But for now, I'm just going to skip one slide forward. In skills, one of the questions I get regularly is South Africa's skills development. So guys would phone and they would say, "This is where I am. I want to become a solar installer. What do I need to do?" And this varies across the board. You've got guys that are new, that are entering the market, that don't know what they need to do, and they want to try and find their way to eventually becoming a qualified and registered electrician. And it's important to understand what those steps are and what you need to do in between each of the steps. Let me just read there what we've got. So South Africa's skills development legislation requires inclusive training opportunities, including in the green economy. So guys, the green economy is probably best covered by the Association for Energy Engineers, or the AEE. AEE is an international association, and there are lots of career opportunities for guys who are interested in approaching the green economy. So the green economy would be anything and everything that's related to renewables. Even energy efficiency would form part of the green economy. Now, what you need to do with this information is look at your client base. So look at your network and your client base. So if your existing clients are factories, then what is the next best possible step for your business to make in order to provide those factories with additional support and resources? So I'm using all sorts of fancy words, but we've got customers that own factories. The motors might be old. Maybe they have motors that are failing regularly. Maybe they have excessive energy bills. So what can you do with your existing customer base to provide them additional services? You can fit vibration sensors on the motors. You can do harmonic studies or studies on power quality. So there I've identified two things. So for the vibration sensors, what do you need to cover the fitment and the quotation of vibration sensors? You need some sort of controller that can capture the information and provide a report, and you need a sensor. So in order for you to provide your network with additional services, you need to have yourself trained in sensors for motors. You need to have yourself trained in how to read power quality equipment and maybe obtaining power quality equipment, or selling a power quality analyzer to your customer. Maybe not one that is a mobile one, but one that is hardwired into the DB board so that they've got a track record of how their system operates, and they can view their data and statistics over a period of a year, not just over a period of a week that you would typically have your meter installed for. So have a look at your network and try and understand what you can provide in your network to provide additional sources to upskill yourself, to upskill your staff, and to expand on the products and services that you're offering. For for industrial commercial, I think that's a great place. Understand processes, understand how processes can be improved and how the efficiency of manufacturing processes can be improved. We have been able to generate significant savings by just swapping out a welder at a factory. The welding machine, so not the guy who's the welder, the welding machine was 25 years old. And by us doing the research on the welding machine, we could save the customer a significant amount of money by swapping it out for a more efficient, more modern type of welding machine. It was a specialized welding machine that could weld 25 millimeter thick steel plates. And just by swapping out the welding machine, we saved them a lot of money. So understand what your network and what your client network does, and try and see how you can upskill your business and your staff to be able to expand on your services. Then, so the solar PV service technician qualification has still not really delivered any candidates. We haven't seen anybody that is qualified under it. So in the meantime, you have to find other avenues. And that's where things like vibration sensors, maybe do some courses on transformers, understand which types of transformers there are. You can do courses on diesel genset integration, how that works, how to identify faults in diesel genset integration, how to work with communication cables. Comms cables in their own right is a topic on its own. And the communication between different devices, the only mistake most of the times is that the incorrect cable has been used, or the pins aren't where they are supposed to be. Then we have further your career with online engineering studies, register with the Department of Labor, or do short courses. So those are a couple of things you can do to get your business aligned and improve the skill of your business and the guys who work for you. Then AREP is in the process of registering as a professional body. Guys, when we look at something like the Engineering Council of South Africa, the engineers who register with the Engineering Council of South Africa are known as professional engineers. They've got the PR-Eng they can put in front of their title. So when AREP registers as a professional body, we are not going to be able to use the PR-Eng title because that's already been registered by the Engineering Council, but we would have different denominations that that would give you a different level of accreditation over and above what is available at the moment. So it's when you register with a professional body, you don't get a new qualification, you just get an accreditation on a different level. Then biofuels and EV. Wow. With where the prices are going for fuel, diesel as well as unleaded fuel. Guys, this is going to have a massive impact on your business and servicing your customers, because all of a sudden your biggest input cost is not the tools anymore. It might not even be the labor. It might become the fuel for keeping your business running. So there are lots of opportunities in biofuel. I'm not saying start generating biofuel or start a biofuel manufacturing plant. What I'm saying is try and understand what is in your network, try and understand what's in your environment, what do you have access to, and what can you do to reduce your overhead costs, or if you have access to this type of technology, all of a sudden, biofuels are becoming extremely attractive. The biofuel kind of discussion is going to pull us into electric vehicles as well, and you'll see in the title, I've already got EVs in there. So identifying opportunities. For those of you that have serviced hundreds and thousands of customers, there has to be some of those customers that are considering buying and installing electric vehicles. The minute you buy and install an electric vehicle, where are the opportunities? Opportunities are in bigger solar systems, bigger batteries, electrical vehicle charging points, and that kind of thing. So you've got to think out of the box a little bit. We've got the costs rising. We've got an increase in fuel levies and an increase in fuel costs. That is going to have a significant impact on your business. How do we use that to improve our range of services we offer? Guys, this brings us back to one other thing. There aren't any courses on installing electric vehicle charging points. There are guys who offer courses, but if you look at the manufacturers and the suppliers for electric vehicle charging points, they say if you can wire a box against the wall, you can fit a charge point. It is really that simple. So the amount of power that goes through it is limited, and the amount of power that goes into the vehicle is limited. So it's not that difficult to install. If you are in a specific area, and maybe Thomas would be able to give us some answer on the charging points. Thomas is going to be joining us when I'm done with this slide. And then Thomas is going to talk about electric vehicles, and just giving us a little bit of additional information on electric vehicles, and we would be able to get the charge point info from Thomas as well. So electric vehicles gives us a running cost reduction. I believe that's in Thomas's presentation as well. There is going to be an increase in operational costs for you to service your existing customers. Guys, just think about this. You've got a project. Most of our projects that we've done has not been local. So I stay in Somerset West. One project has been in Somerset West. All the other projects have been in Joburg, Gauteng, Durban, KZN, and the Northern Cape. None of them here. The Northern Cape one would have been the worst because that was like a 9-hour drive to get to site. That is going to have a massive impact on the cost of installations and sites. How are you guys going to mitigate that? And you are going to have to be creative. Thomas, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to quickly stop sharing. I believe you have a couple of slides and maybe you can jump in. I see there are a couple of questions. I don't know whether the questions have been covered. While you present, I'll quickly run through the questions and see if there is anything I need to respond to. Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Carl. So I'm going to keep this as quick and as light as possible. So I just put down a few talking points. Carl also involved me because I recently entered the EV sales space, where we're busy selling Geelys. From my research, I've compiled a few points to talk about. So obviously, South African sales growth on EVs, if you go look at the statistics, went down last year, but the plug-in hybrid segment of the EVs have grown very rapidly. I would say, in my opinion, I also prefer a hybrid with a long range, like 100 kilometers, so that you can commute to work and back. And when needed or you're traveling far, you've got a highly efficient electric engine along with your normal in combustion engine combo. These guys typically predict about 20 kilometers per liter if you've got a fully charged tank and battery. So the charging network in South Africa is somewhere between 300 and 400 charging points at the moment. About 80% of the market is currently grid cars, which I believe a lot of people will know. Solar F started, recently sold. They have been the market leaders for quite a while. They are expanding at a rapid pace. I believe they want to actually double their network over the next year or so. Globally, obviously, EV adoption is kicking off. If you look at European countries, the trend is only one way, EV sales. To put that into perspective, even Denmark is now surpassing 90% EV sales. Obviously, if we look there, the Chinese brands, that's a big one. Initially, like the Japanese, when they were known as Jap Scrap, the first cars that came in was not great. We all know this, but in my experience, from what I've seen, and I'm a big petrol head, race cars, do all that stuff, they have become very reliable. The interior quality now really picked up the last while, to be quite honest. So I think the biggest thing for everyone present and any business owner would be the lower maintenance costs. So I did a very quick, rough calculation based on small cars, smaller city cars. And from what I've found, your typical, just the petrol cost, not maintenance, cost of buying the car, you're saving considerably. I mean, it's a quarter of what it would cost at a charging point. Charging point typically charges you about 8 Rand a kilowatt hour, which is double the normal rate you get at home. Or if you've got solar, you can work out your own cost, but it's below 2 Rand typically if you're on hybrid. Another important point is obviously maintenance. Cars having low friction tires, regenerative braking, no serviceable parts in that sense. There's no engine, it's only electric motors. Typically, the guys at the worst just swap the battery fluid every 80,000 kilometers. So on the maintenance side, less tire wear because there's low friction tires, less braking. I mean, one of the big things that people typically have to get used to with EVs is their front brakes rusting because they don't get used. And also, from what I've seen with the hybrid guys, I have many friends that have bought a Geely hybrid or a BYD Shark. They commute to work and back. They charge at work, which means no cost to them, or if you own it, cost to you, but again, lower cost than charging at home. Another thing that is also a good point is if you've got an electric van, your guys are on site, these electric cars can typically charge from a 3-point plug at 2 kilowatt. So you might even be able to cover up your energy use to site and back by charging at site at no cost to yourself. Typically, repairs on these cars are swap out and replace. They don't really repair these cars, you know, electric motors and such. So for future opportunities, I would say, you know, charging points, installing charging points is a big thing. That's obviously very capital intensive if you want to do a public charging network. In smaller charging points, the guys typically charge about 5 grand per installation as a reference. As Carl pointed out, there is big opportunity to expand solar, battery, and the related ecosystem, either with corporate clients or at home or wherever. There isn't any official servicing infrastructure for EVs yet. Guys that specialize, like people would specialize in BMW, that specialize in EVs. I haven't seen that around, but I might be uninformed on that side. Obviously, something that I didn't mention here that I should have put on is EV logistics. We all know logistics is a massive business in South Africa. And if you can show improvement on cost and efficiency there, typically you would be able to gain quite a bit of market share. So having Geely as a brand that we sell, Carl said I could do a quick overview of Geely that you guys just know why we chose them and why we're punting them. So they do own Volvo, which a lot of guys know. Volvo, Polestar, Lotus, all these brands. And from what I can see, they have actually totally taken what they got from Volvo and utilized it to the max. They designed new petrol engines, designed new platforms that they share between Volvo and Geely. The JD Powers survey in China indicate that the brand perception is extremely strong, especially on the reliability side. The E2 in specific, the smaller Geely, is the top selling model in China at the moment. Geely tends to be in the top 3 in terms of overall car sales. Individual car sales, like I say, obviously the E2 is the top seller in China. I believe they sold 465,000 cars last year. If you go look at Geely's battery tech, the golden brick, all this, they're already on the new generation of LFP batteries that's called LFMP, where they mix in manganese to add higher density in terms of energy density and performance, but also keep the safety of the LFP batteries. Geely has opened, I think, about 30 dealers in the last 3 months. They've got, in my eyes, the most competitive EV offer in the E2. It is a much larger car than its competition. In fact, it's larger than Polo and all these guys at an extremely good price. Very reliable, very light, which shows very good battery density. Yeah, and high quality interior, which surprised me the most. I'm not the biggest fan of leather and Chinese interiors. So I was pleasantly surprised. The ride, the comfort, the space, the size, they are excellent. And if you compare it to the competition, I don't even think it is competition, to be honest. And is the link working? So the link is not working. I'm going to quickly go into Geely's website just to quickly go over the cars we have here, which would be the E2, the hybrid, which has been surprisingly well received and in high demand, and
Thomas,
are fully electric. Yes?
you are still on your slideshow.
Oh, let me just reshare this one. Yeah, apologies, guys. So this is just Geely's website. This is just the cars I was talking about. One of the biggest things that I saw myself and that I was very impressed with, I saw an E2 come and park. It had 10% left. Within 32 minutes, the car was absolutely fully charged. So I believe with the new generation of batteries like the Geely has, charging is no longer an issue. You can charge the big full electric within 20 minutes. So roughly the same amount you would need for a petrol stop, you get the same time of amount for electric cars these days. And even charging on the public network, your relative rate is still half of what petrol would cost you. And then just for the last, we can just have a quick look at, just a moment, apologies, at our charging station network here. I'll share that now.
I was just going to say, while you're busy looking for that, the one thing that I find fascinating about the industry is how turbulent the sector is. And it wasn't a year ago where I remember or I recall on social media there was a discussion around electric vehicles and the general perception was that electric vehicles were not going to really feature in Africa. And up until a year ago, I was still looking at buying a car with a V8 engine in it just because it sounds nice. Those days are gone. Anyway, I'm going to leave you so you can quickly show the charging infrastructure.
Yeah. So I would say from the charging infrastructure, the big gap here is in the Northern Cape. As you can see, there's nothing in Springbok, Pofadder, Uppington. Zero Charge is looking to put up charge points there. In general, you should be able to get almost anywhere in the country except the Northern Cape at this stage, it seems like. Charging points at all the malls. And on the ESCOM question, I did have a specific chat about that with grid cars. Yes, ESCOM is installing chargers. No, they do not actually want to compete or beat the guys on price. So ESCOM will be participating. They will be putting down charging stations, but they will match general market rates so that they don't kill the current charging guys. One of the things why is that grid cars and the charging guys are putting down very big batteries, and ESCOM is going to use that for voltage control and all these things on that line. So the guys will be stacking revenues above charging. They're also looking to do arbitrage to the malls where they installed and the like. So the guys are looking to multiply the revenues that are coming in from the charging points. Yeah, I'm pretty much done, guys. Obviously, anyone on the meeting, if you want the ghillie, let me know. We'll give you a special rate. Any cars that are sold here, a little donation goes back to AREP as well. Thank you very much for your time, guys.
Uh, Thomas, just as a matter of interest, the link to that charge station map that you've got there, is that available to the public?
Yes, if you do Google charge station map South Africa, there's 6 or 7 links. Rubicon has got a map, grid cars, they show all the charging points. It's a generic map that gets pulled off Google Maps. So as the
Okay.
guys put down their charging points on Google Maps, it appears on everyone's map as well.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. Uh, I see a question coming in from Jocelyn on is there a possibility that Eskom will muddy the water? Guys, I think the next couple of years are going to be extremely um, volatile in terms of how municipalities, Eskom, and different producers, I wouldn't call it fight, but fight for market dominance. So we can already see that, and Sean mentioned this the other day. For next year, Cape Town has made provision for allowing homeowners to be paid something in the region. This is from memory, so forgive me if I've got the values incorrect, but it was in the region of about 7 Rand a kilowatt hour during peak times for homeowners to push power back into the grid. So this paves the way for homeowners to have bigger batteries because the cost of energy in batteries is less than 7 Rand a kilowatt hour. So it kind of gets to the point where it's viable to put in bigger batteries, more solar, to make provision for pushing power back during periods where where the municipalities will what is that? Pay you for whatever it is that is being pushed back. There was a oh, Thomas has responded to that question. Warren wanted to know whether Geely as a preferred brand of charger. Yeah, guys, it's crazy. So just when the war started, we were busy driving around and we ended up at one of the distributors for electric vehicles in Somerset West. And he told me, and this was a month or a month and a half ago when the war just started. And he said that because of the war, their next two shipments have already been sold out. So for those of you that have not seen a change in the market, consider this your notification to let you know that there has been a shift in the market, and I think it's going to happen fairly quickly. We are not going to see, based on reports and articles, we are not going to see a significant drop in the cost of fuel over the next 2 years. So it kind of is pushing the market towards electric vehicles. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting space. So simultaneously, you're going to have, and maybe that's where my next slide ends, or that is where the slide deck ends, if I can find it. There we go. The slide deck ends with tech advancement. We see ongoing technology development. We see the rapid emergence of AI that I think is going to affect labor needs. If I look at what I know about AI now, it has shifted from where it was a month ago. A month ago, it looked like AI was going to take over everything. If I look at where it is at the moment, you are still going to need engineers. One of the articles that came through my wife's feed said that companies that typically give money towards towards IT guys studying, what do you call it? What's a beurs? I don't remember. What's a beurs? What do you call it?
Scholarship.
Scholarship. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mariusha. Large organizations who typically fund scholarships have not funded scholarships for universities for new IT guys for next year. So that is bringing in a shift and a dynamic. So in the market, we are going to see more kids entering the job market, being pushed into the trades. So you are going to have to get your head around that, as you are going to have to see, you're going to have an influx of guys servicing different trades. Then point number 2, renewable energy deployment is being shaped by national policies that influence market development. Yeah, that we can control to a certain extent, but we can't really. Grid capacity. So we see transmission lines and other types of infrastructure will require smart devices. If we think of the cost of diesel, we think of Eskom's diesel turbines running to keep the lights on. So we are going to see a significant increase in the cost of energy, which is going to make solar systems more affordable. It's going to make batteries more affordable. It's going to reduce the payback period significantly. Think about how that's going to affect your market and what you can do to capitalize on that. Guys, this is not something that's happening now. This is something that's going to happen in 6 months or maybe in 12 months. We are going to see the change in market conditions in the future. So we can make changes in our business, incremental or small changes in the business to to compensate for where the market is heading and for what we think is going to happen in our environment. When I say this, we've got a fairly broad range of guys, a diverse range of guys attending these meetings. So I can't really be extremely specific. We've got guys in agriculture, and agriculture is completely different to food processing. It is completely different to clothing and textile processing. Completely different to steel manufacturing. So we've got all of these variables in the sector, and the guys that attend these meetings and watch these videos, they're all in different sectors. You've got to identify what it is and the impact that the war and the cost of oil is going to have on your network and your sector, and you need to try and see what you can do to shape it. If you have certain questions, you're welcome to give me a call. Please don't send an email. Welcome to drop a voice note or phone me, and we can have a discussion about it. There might be some things I know about your sector, and we can have more focused or more dedicated discussions about, well, labor or manufacturing or cost saving or whatever the case may be. What I don't like about the tech advancement is everything is disposable. You can't fix. There are certain laptops that you can't fix or maintain. When they're done, you throw them away. Phones are thrown away. We are at the point where you can't work on modern car engines. The entire engine with the gearbox is sent back to wherever it's manufactured. It's not serviceable. I do see some pressure from consumers. I think France has made it illegal to manufacture equipment that can't be serviced. So I do see consumers pushing manufacturers back to the point to where things can be serviced again. But that's going to take 10 years before we see the impact of that in all the equipment. So it's going to take a while for that to filter through. Then, as a contractor, consider an increased presence with an increased presence of technology with installations, as well as the automation of some of your services. Everybody is going to move towards an environment where technology is more prevalent and it has a bigger impact on your business, maybe from a reporting point of view, but you're going to have to look at different options and get your head around it. Guys, are there any questions? That brings me to the end of my presentation. Then the last slide was a Q&A slide. So we've had a couple of questions. I don't think we have any remaining questions.
Hello, Carl.
Yes.
This is Ian here. Right. Can I raise an issue? It's a bit negative,
Yes.
but I've tried to contact you on occasions, and quite frankly, I'll just be as brief as I can. I
Okay.
really don't know what to do about it. Okay. First of all, I'm retired, but I am assisting an electrical engineer who's too busy.
Okay.
And an issue has come up. In fact, it's come up a couple of times. In the city of Cape Town, a consumer was penalized rather heavily for a PV installation that hadn't been registered, which
Yeah.
is quite normal. Came with meter tampering, unregistered, 14 days in which to remove, etc. Now, the system is in actual fact a hired system from a company.
Wow.
So we went to go and inspect this, and we actually haven't charged the client. We went to inspect, and I arranged for an electrical contractor to disconnect because it was hazardous. So we disconnected the system. I've been in contact with the company a number of times, and quite frankly, um, the reaction has been unbelievable. And if you go to Hello Peter, you'll see the same issue happening. First of all, this company, their contract is written in such a way that they are not responsible for anything. There's no
Wow.
COCs issued. That is, in fact, here it is. Okay. COCs and application for registration is the client's responsibility. Now, this particular installation wasn't just done incorrectly in terms of standards. The client has also been having a horrific electrical bill since it was installed. It cost, the rental is about 3,000 Rand a month, plus about 2,200 Rand a month, plus minus, additional electricity because the people who installed it uh, managed to put the CTs the wrong way around. So it's actually being fed through the meter. Right. So I have we've tried to go to the company. We've gone to the consumer protection lady. It seems nobody wants to touch these people. I've also spoken to the inspectorate authority. They know about them. And, the consumers are just getting smacked there. And at the moment, they're doing an awful lot of advertising out there. The company is called Go Solar. I've got absolutely no problem mentioning their name because I was involved with them about 3 years ago in a court case, and they took on the wrong person and they lost. But yeah, this is a practice that they go into. They um, basically what happens, they use subcontractors who are not registered, not licensed, um, and it's just an absolute disaster. What can one do about this? I mean, there are some bad eggs out there, but this is absolutely horrific.
So from an installation point of view, so first of all, the contract can't supersede or surpass the regulation. So you can't have a contract that provides that safeguards or prevents or gives the company who did the who owns the installation, they can't create a contract that negates the regulation. And the regulation says that if an installation is done, you have to issue a COC. So that in itself makes the contract, in my opinion, not non-binding. So you should be able to find a way to get the homeowner to return the goods and to stop.
Okay, Carl, I'm going to interrupt you. Yes. I spent a couple of weeks with this, and you might have seen I've sent you a message once or twice. I've been to the Consumer Council. I've undertaken this. I mean, this is a this is an elderly person, and as I spoke to her this morning, and there's been no charge from our side. I spoke to her this morning. So now what has happened? This company have said, right, they are going to, and just listen to this. I've seen their terms and conditions that have come through. On the 23rd of May, they are going to remove everything. They are not responsible for any damages. They are not responsible for the reinstallation of the work they did to the DB. And she has got to take out insurance covering whoever comes to do the work for workman's compensation or any injuries, whatever that happens on the site. Who's coming to work? I asked that question. They said they don't know. They will be appointing somebody in Cape Town. So this is how they operate. So I mean, I've got a COC from another customer of theirs, and the COC is absolute rubbish. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, The registration numbers don't exist. I now have found out that this person whose name is on the COC is deceased for 2 years, yet he issued a COC. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre. And
Ian,
yet,
can we? Yeah, sorry.
yeah,
And yet,
no, it's and quite frankly, I mean, we're out there. I've also assisted a company as a startup, and I mean, there are really good companies and good installers, and okay, mistakes are made, um, but I think the whole industry is at this point in time taking a step forward, certainly in terms of the tightening up of the regs and everything. But this isn't just a Mickey Mouse operation.
yeah.
This is quite a big operation, and yet they are selling and they do a big turnover, but they generally target the lower income group. I mean, and unfortunately now they are targeting in the townships and places like that, and
No,
this is not right.
the issue that we won't be able to address is the consumer. Consumers, and I'm not saying the consumer is in the wrong here.
Yeah,
Uh, but if you look at the company themselves, you look at their marketing
yeah,
initiatives, you look at
yeah,
everything they do to get a share of the market. Nothing that we really do can change how the consumer responds to their marketing, because the consumer is not well informed. The consumer makes silly mistakes. They don't know what to look out for. They don't know what to research. It's just a lot of information to
yeah.
absorb.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
So maybe we should take this conversation offline,
Yeah,
and
I would like that, please.
see what we can do. And then I'd be happy to, for the members, for future, we can have a follow-up session where we
Yes, please.
just give a breakdown on the members meeting of what has been done and where it is in the process.
100%. Thank you. I just needed. It's been very frustrating. The fact remains is that the consumer is the target, and there's no doubt about it.
I have, when you said you've been trying to get hold of me, that
No, no, okay.
my first response was, oh
Okay.
no.
No. I left a message, but I spoke to your lady, and she's been wonderful. I want to tell
Oh,
you.
it would have been Jocelyn, I think.
And I think this organization, I'm actually going to be bringing someone along, if you don't mind, next time.
No,
He started a business. Well, it's a sideline business. He's basically from his big company, and he is in fact he's a highly qualified engineer, and comes from the defense industry. So to keep guys busy as they are being retrenched with what's happening in our military, he started this business, and it's brilliant. It's
okay.
what we need in this country.
Ian, if you want him to cover some of the information, we can have a discussion and see whether
Yes,
he would fit into the next members meeting, and then
I
maybe
would like to.
if
Okay,
it has value, if it has value for the member base, it'll be nice to
yeah,
have his input.
right. Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Ian, thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Great meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see one last question. We're 10 minutes over time. One last question for Thomas, if Thomas is still available. Tian wants to know, has anyone done an economic analysis or feasibility study on converting a commercial fleet to EV or hybrid? So, Tian, I think there has been, but specific to
Yeah,
South Africa.
yeah. So we have done some calculations in the background. We were specifically looking at Geely's commercial brand. It's called Farizon. They do vans, trucks, bakkies, the likes. Um, there is an energy cost linked to it. So from what we understand, if the energy cost is below 3 Rand a kilowatt hour, over a 5 year span, the EV truck then becomes cheaper to operate despite being double the capex of a normal truck. So yes, there has been a lot of these discussions in the background, and myself and Gridcars also had this specific discussion. Because all the logistics guys calculate their trucks over 5 years or X amount of kilometers. So there is a break-even point. It's 3 rand a kilowatt hour, but the electric truck cost is falling so quickly that I think in future, it's maybe in 2 years' time, it's not even going to be a competition anymore between EV trucks and combustion trucks.
Excellent. Thomas, thank you very much. Guys, thanks to everyone that joined us today. I hope there's been some useful information in the presentations. Good luck with your business. Yeah, wow. Keep the costs that are running away at bay, and hopefully everybody will still be around for the next meeting. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Keep well. Bye.